5.8, pretty sketchy. 3.3, oh, yeah. Previously, I tested this GEP-RC 3.3 gigahertz video receiver with a GEP-RC 3.3 gigahertz video transmitter to see if going to a lower frequency for FPV video could give us better range. In theory, the lower frequency should give us about 70% more range, but in practice, that's not how it panned out. Yeah, no, same breakup. Well, I guess that hope is dead, that it would somehow be like super clear and stable. Oh no, it's breaking up. It's just breaking up. At the end of that video, I said that the physics are indisputable. Lower frequencies give better performance, all else being equal. And I speculated that the thing that was not equal was the quality of the hardware. Well, today we're going to put that to the test, because this is the new Divimath 4-watt analog video transmitter. It's from Divimath, the same company that makes the digital transmission system that you know from the HD0 goggles, but it's an analog video transmitter. It outputs 4 watts, and here's the key. Look at these antennas. It transmits on both 3.3 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz, and you can switch between them while you're flying. So what we're going to do in this video is, number one, we're going to try a ostensibly super high quality piece of hardware. Divimath doesn't make no stinkers. And number two, we're going to be able to switch back and forth between frequencies at the exact same output power in the exact same location in real time while we're flying and compare the performance. I'm Joshua Bardwell. You're going to learn something today. Two things before we get into this test. Number one, if you want to watch more information about this video transmitter, I've got a release video, a review of the video transmitter itself, testing its 5.8 gigahertz performance. And if you want to know how to set this video transmitter up so that you can switch frequencies in flight just by flipping a switch on your hand controller, and the goggles and the video transmitter will all switch together, I got a video about that as well. This is not the video about that. Those are linked down in the video description below. In fact, they're all part of a playlist, and I encourage you to check those out after this. But for this one, I want to get this sucker right in the air and see how it performs. Just from the perspective of science, I also want you to see that I have an Omni antenna for 5.8 gigahertz here, and I have an Omni antenna for 3.3 gigahertz. Again, trying to make it as apples to apples as possible, although there's only so much you can do. In the real world, I would need a battery plugged into the other end as well, wouldn't I? Yeah. Let's set the output power to 400 milliwatts. That's not the most power that it supports, but it will let us get a sense of how the performance is. And then if you look in the upper right corner of the OSD, you can see race 8, that's 5.8 gigahertz. And if I flip this switch, 3.3 gigahertz, channel 4. Awesome. Okay, well, I don't know if I'll be flipping it in the air with that amount of static, but let's get her in the air. Let's see how she performs. And the first thing I want to do is I just want to find a spot where I get some breakup on 5.8 gigahertz and see how 3.3 compares. So, like, usually if I go down here into this end of the yard, like behind the house here, we'll get some breakup. Okay, and 3.3 is, it's hard to say. Let me set it down. Okay, 5.8, no, 3.3, 5.8. Oh, I think we're losing, it's overheating. Maybe I need to keep it in the air. Come around here, it's perfectly clear, as you would expect. Okay, 5.8. And let me get somewhere clear, and 3.3. That was pretty quick. Here comes 3.3. Ooh, that's tough. 5.8 looks a little brighter, maybe a little clearer. That may just be because of the AV input on the goggles. Boy, they seem pretty close. They seem very comparable. It doesn't feel like we're getting 70% better. Here's the thought that I'm having. we have an excellent 5.8 gigahertz video receiver. We have a unknown quality 3.3 gigahertz video receiver. What if this, I mean, 70% sounds like a lot, but that's only a couple decibels. And so it would be easy for this video receiver to be weaker enough that it makes up all the difference we're getting in the frequency, in the lower frequency. So let's try some other video receivers. This right here is the RushFPV 3.3 gigahertz video receiver. I'll just get a quick look at it. We got a screen down here. It is not a diversity receiver. It's a single antenna and kind of cool. It's got a DVR built in down here. We won't be using that, but that is what we got there. And let me get that set up and then we'll go and we'll do some flying. Okay. Everything else about the test is the same. Let's see if the results are any different. Okay, 5.8 gigahertz. Where's my 3.3 gigahertz switch? .3 gigahertz. Is it any better? Maybe. Maybe the tiniest bit. It might be the tiniest bit better. Yeah. The 3.3 might be just a little more stable and a little less staticky. Let's go back over here, right to where it just started to break up. More or less. Yeah, this is about the place. That's tough. Like, it's got some distortion. Let me turn my head a little to make it match. There's a little bit of distortion here, but there's a lot more static here in 5.8. A lot of static. Whereas this is, I think this is definitively better. Oh yeah, that's definitively better. .8, pretty sketchy. 3.3, oh, yeah. 3.3, 5.8. Now as I get higher, oh no, the distinction is still there. 3.3 is very solid. 3.3. Oh, this is way better than I was getting. Oh, we're still only at 400 milliwatts though, Bardwell. Don't go crazy. Oh yeah, no, that's way better. How about that? Okay. Wow. All right, so here we are in my favorite parking garage, and we're gonna do a little bit of a different kind of testing. You might call this penetration testing because I'm gonna fly up and down the floors of the parking garage, and it's gonna have to go through the thick concrete. We can also fly behind some of the walls, and it'll have to go through the thick concrete. I say that though, but like some of the signal is gonna bounce off the walls and bounce around, or maybe go even outside the parking garage and bounce back in. But this is the best we can get in simulating kind of like a bando style environment in a realistic and more importantly, repeatable way. Like this building is very predictable, repeatable as I go up and down, as opposed to like a bando where like I might fly somewhere and maybe there's an opening or something, maybe there isn't. Anyway, we're going to start this test at 400 milliwatts, which I predict will not be enough to get very far, but kind of that's what we want. And then we'll try it blasting at 4 watts and, well, we'll see what that result is like as well. So here we go. And we are starting at 5 gigahertz, 5.8 gigahertz. And you can see here immediately, here's me, right? And here is a wall. right? But there's plenty of openings. But as I go past this wall here, there will be no openings. So like, it's raining outside, so I'm not going to go out there. But if I like go over here, I'm going through 2 of these like 12-inch, 10-inch concrete walls, 1, 2, in order to get there. Let's see how 400 milliwatts treats that. Not bad. Not spectacular. Oh, and I'm on Omni antennas too. Ugh. Let's see. Hang on, I'm going to sit down here. Now let's see if 3.3 gigahertz is any better. 3.3. And I'm going to arm and lift off. I would say... Oh, there's an opening there. Oh, that goes down. Oh, yeah. There is an opening there. That, I see. Yeah, here we're doing pretty good because we're just coming through this opening. There's me right over there. So this is like the worst case scenario as I'm at the center of this wall. 3.3 gig and 5.8. I think 3.3 is slightly better. Yeah, 3.3 is slightly better. Wait. Go a little further. Let's see how far we can get. We are on 3.3 gig here. Let me just switch it to 5.8. 5.8. Oh, gosh. I would not be very happy to fly this. Maybe if I get off the ground, it'll get slightly better. It's slightly better. Okay, it's hanging in there. And I predict that if I go over here, I will lose it completely because there's just, you see, I have this big opening here, and I've flown this building before. And if I go around this corner, it's over. So I'm not going to do that. Oh, gosh. 3.3 gig saved me. Oh, yeah. So it's still pretty bad, but it's better. And I still am skeptical that I can get around this corner. Like, there's just so much concrete, not just this wall, but many more, that all the signal is more or less bouncing. But let's see if we can dip in and how deep in we can go before we lose it. Oh, see, that's pretty bad. 3.3 is significantly better. Still pretty bad. Oh gosh. I can just see the exit. Get me out of here. Yeah. So with 3.3, I got just a little more penetration in there. That probably has more to do with the bounce or the bend of the signal. Lower frequency signals are going to do just a little bit better at bending around corners. I just don't think there's much penetration at all, even at 4 watts. But that is a lot of concrete to go through. So I don't really think that's a criticism that it failed to penetrate there. So here we are down 1 level, and I'm basically directly beneath myself. And if I switch to 5.8, still hanging in there pretty good. It does feel like the 5.8 has a lot more sort of shimmering and less stability. Basically coming straight down through the floor at this point. Some of the results you're seeing are affected by the fact that I'm using Omni antennas instead of patch antennas. In the real world, I would probably use patch antennas here and get a little better range and penetration. I'm using Omnis because I just feel like that's going to give me more consistent and comparable results between 3.3 and 5.8 than if I had 2 patch antennas that didn't have the same coverage pattern. So 5.8, and here comes 3.3. Yeah. I just think the 3.3 is edging out the 5.8 ever so slightly. Oh. I slipped. What's that? My finger slipped when I reached for the disarm switch. I'm not used to that controller. Here's one disadvantage of 3.3 gigahertz. The antennas are larger, and you see the 5.8 gig antenna is just fine. The 3.3 gig antenna is toast. On top of that, you should be glad to see that the battery came unplugged when I hit the ceiling, because if I had run this video transmitter at 4 watts with a busted off antenna, it certainly would have damaged it. So I guess that's going to do it for this testing. I am so thrilled with the way this video turned out. First of all, because I finally figured out how to get 3.3 gigahertz to have the performance advantage that like the physics and the theory say it ought to have. And I'm going to give you a link to that video receiver in the video description below if you're interested in picking it up, if you want to try 3.3 gigahertz out for yourself. Is a little bit annoying to have a standalone ground station instead of a module that goes in your goggles. And I do want to point out that you can buy the Divimath expansion module bay. Even if you have HD0 goggles, you can still use the Divimath expansion bay, and you can use a 3.3 gigahertz module that actually goes in the goggles, although I wonder whether they will have similarly bad performance to the original. I don't know. I haven't tried it out, but if you're interested in all of that, that is an option. But I'm also so excited with the way that this video transmitter has performed. I am way more convinced than I thought I was going to be at the start of this process that there is an argument for a typical hobbyist using 3.3 gigahertz. Like you show up at a flight location and you start flying on race band and all your buddies are watching you fly, and that's cool. But then maybe it gets really busy and all the channels are taken, and instead of going, hey, is anybody on race 8? Can I go up on race 8? You just dip down to 3.3 gigahertz. You go fly, you do your thing. You got a little bit better penetration, right? Like, the option is there, and although I don't know the final pricing of this video transmitter, I suspect that the pricing will not be so ridiculous that it will be like, hobbyists will just be like, nah, I don't want it. So there's also a link to the video transmitter down in the video description below. And finally, the HD0, nope, the Divimath NDAA goggles. Now, this is a case where the price difference versus the benefit to the average hobbyist, I think, is not there. The Divimath goggles run around $1,300. That's US pricing, obviously, because it's NDAA products, so only the US is interested. And the HD0 goggles run about $750 in the US, about $650 in the rest of the world. And so I just think that markup compared to the difference in performance, like the NDAA goggles give you the ability to do the in-flight switching between 3.3 and 5.8, whereas with the HD0 goggles, you would have to manually switch. And a hobbyist, like, that's fine. What's a hobbyist going to want to switch in flight? The only people who are really going to want to switch bands in flight are people doing NDAA things, the military, the government, etc. By the way, if you're with the military and the government, then this is the stuff you want. This video transmitter, and especially these goggles, are money. There's other stuff out there that people are going to try to sell you, and they're not necessarily bad, but this is the shit right here. If you can get it, this is what you want to get, in my humble opinion. 2 more videos that you need to make sure you've seen if you haven't seen them. The first is my just review of this video transmitter and how it performs as a 5.8 gigahertz video transmitter, an intro, installation, setup, and all that stuff. And if you need to know how to set up the channel switching, so that you can automatically switch the goggles and the video transmitter together, I've got videos about that. They're on screen, and I'll see you there.